The Senators lose Brady Tkachuk with an injury as the Buffalo Sabres are off to another terrible start. Hey everyone, welcome into Off the Post. Rob Wong joined alongside by Steve Simmons and Bruce Garrioch. And guys, the Ottawa Senators off to a bit of a slow start after a great season opening win over Tampa. Bruce, they've dropped 2 in a row as of this recording to the Panthers and the Predators. They've got the Sabres next, and we'll get to them in a moment. But the big news right now is that Captain Brady Tkachuk in New York today getting a second opinion on his injury. What's the latest you're hearing on this, Bruce? And can the Sens at least tread water in the Atlantic while he's out?
Well, my sense is that Tkachuk is going to undergo surgery and that this trip to New York is nothing more to confirm that. If that's the case, I've been told that this is a ligament issue, and generally speaking, what I've been told by league executive Steve and Rob is that if he has the surgery, you're looking at about a 6 to 8 week recovery period. That is a long stretch for the Ottawa Senators to be without their captain. They were 5-4-1 when they didn't have him in 10 games last year during late in the season. This is their inspirational leader. This is their heart and soul. This is a guy who carries the team into battle every night. He's a Tkachuk. He's a chip off the old block, Steve. And I think that the Senators without him are going to be a different team because they're not very tough with him. They're going to be even less tough, and I mean physically, without him.
You're going to be missing him for, my estimate is 20 to 25 games, somewhere in that range. That's
13 if it's 4 weeks, so it's probably more than that, Steve.
So what you're talking about is a good portion of the season, more than a quarter of the season, to your most indispensable player. And to a player who brings things that don't show on the score on the score sheets and on the statistics and all that. And this is a team that has trouble scoring now with everybody. You take Brady Tkachuk out, and scoring is going to be even more of a challenge. And it's going to be even more of a challenge at a time when Montreal looks like it's operating on all cylinders, and Detroit looks like it's off to a better start than it's had in recent years. And I don't think anyone would have thought before the season began that the Senators wouldn't be right in the mix for a playoff spot. You can look at it now, and if the East deepens at all, and I suspect it will, they're going to be in tough to make the playoffs when they're losing Brady Tkachuk for that many games.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge without him. Sorry, go ahead, Bruce.
I just look at it, Steve, and I say, you can take certain guys out of a lineup and you can fill in with them. And look, there is no indispensable man, but I think taking this guy out, you're leaving a big piece. They're off to they've only played 3 games as we speak, but they're off to a slow start as it is. And all of a sudden you don't have your captain for a lengthy stretch. Yikes.
Well, I've seen situations the opposite. I remember one year when Matt Sundin went out with the Leafs, and everyone thought, well, they're going to fall apart without Sundin, and they played some of the best hockey they had played without him. And Alan McCauley at the time played exceptionally well in filling in for Sundin. So once in a while, something like that happens, and you never know who's going to be the guy that steps up and jumps into a spot or who gets an opportunity under the circumstances. But I just think that's a thinnish group up front, top 6, as far as I'm concerned. It gets thinner when you take the heart and soul out of that lineup.
Yeah, definitely going to be a challenge for the Senators moving forward here. Don't want to say anything is, ever a guaranteed win night, Bruce and Steve, but you've got the Buffalo Sabres on tap here for the Senators on a Wednesday night. And this is a team off to a dreadful start, 0-3. They've been outscored 10-2. Some reports out there that stars Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin have told management that things need to improve and improve fast, Steve. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be happening anytime soon for this group. Is this sort of just a matter of time before Kevin Adams and company are making some moves to refurbish this thing once again?
Well, if I'm an NHL general manager, I'm getting an Airbnb in Buffalo. and I'm just going to camp out there, and I'm going to camp out there until, they're ready to move one of their star players. They moved Jack Eichel to Vegas, and he won a Stanley Cup. And they moved Sam Reinhart to Florida, and he won 2 Stanley Cups. And they moved, I'm missing a guy, Ryan O'Reilly to St. Louis, and he won a Stanley Cup. So if you're a GM and you think you got a shot, you want one of those upper echelon, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck, Dahlin kind of guys. And let's be honest, Kevin Adams doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he's clearly beyond his depths as a general manager. He is probably the worst GM in the NHL. That's not a bad roster when you look at it. It's not a terrible team. I don't understand why they're a terrible team and what happens first. Does the coach go? Does the GM go? Do players go? It's going to be interesting to watch the Buffalo Sabres. But like I said, I'd be camped out and waiting. If I'm a GM with my hands out, I got a deal for you.
Well, I do think, Steve, that the first domino to fall will be Kevin Adams. And I do think that Jarmo Kekalainen, who did a very good job with the Columbus Blue Jackets, will land as the general manager of that team. I mean, he was brought in as a senior advisor during the offseason. I think that if you look at the situation that the Sabres are in, I don't think there's any point in firing Lindy Ruff. Yeah, I just think at this point, wait to see what you can get. I guess you could go out and get Peter DeBoer, who's sitting there right now, if you want. But my sense has been that this would be Lindy Ruff's last year coaching.
I think so too. But do you want to write off the whole year now?
Well, yeah, you're right. Like, when you put it that way, I hadn't really thought of it that way. Yeah, I mean, you still have hope, right? And hey, you know what? As we speak, the Ottawa didn't win at home against the Sabres last year. So, in Buffalo. So maybe there is some hope here for the Sabres, and maybe Ottawa is a good spot on the bingo card for them. But I guess what you're saying, Steve, is I'm kind of can you make wholesale changes now? But you're saying, why not make wholesale changes?
No, I'm not saying why not make wholesale changes. I'm saying, if your coach with this roster can't be ready to start the season and you get shut out at home on opening night and don't even barely show, if that's your coach and that's the best he can do, then I'm looking at this as a Dennis Savard, Joel Quenneville situation.
Okay.
Chicago Blackhawks were in years ago. They didn't dislike Denny Savard as their coach. Quenneville was available, and it's like, we can get a great coach when we have maybe a good one. Let's go for the great one. And I think Peter DeBoer is one of the great ones. There aren't many of them, but he's one of them. Yeah. And if you have a chance to get Pete DeBoer and say goodbye to Lindy Ruff, then so be it, as far as I'm concerned. But there's been no sign from the owner, Pagula, that he's willing to do much of anything in terms of coach firings or general manager firings.
When he fired Tim Murray a long time ago, and I profess this by saying Tim Murray is a friend of mine, okay? But when he fired Tim Murray, I thought he's just giving somebody else an excuse to lose. And that's exactly what's happened in Buffalo since Tim Murray was fired.
But what do you need to be successful? You need probably 4 defensemen, and you can fill out the rest. You need maybe 6 forwards, and you can fill out the rest. The Buffalo Sabres have 4 defensemen, and the Buffalo Sabres have some pretty darn good forwards. Starting with Tage Thompson, one of the most explosive forwards in the league. And so there's parts there. So if I'm looking at this either as a coach or a GM coming in, like if you're Jarmo or somebody else, this is not you're not inheriting the sisters of the poor here.
No, it's kind of like what Steve Staios got in Ottawa. The one thing that Pierre Dorion couldn't do in Ottawa, guys, was put the right players. He did a marvelous job bringing in. The core of this team is Pierre Dorion's. and people keep saying, well, Steve Staios hasn't made many changes. Well, he has made a lot of changes. In fact, there are 12 new faces here since he came in 2 years ago. And you're right, Steve. I think that Kevin Adams and his club have done a good job of kind of guiding this rebuild, but they haven't been able to put the right players in around these guys. And that to me is where the issue lies.
And you know what? You can't. The one thing we've known year after year after year after year, you can't get too far behind early in the season.
No. Because
you won't make up those points. And no matter how well you play in the second half or whatever else, if you're out 6 or you're out 8 or you're down 10 early in the year, you're not making up that. It's very, very rare that happens.
Okay, Rob, if you get behind 0-2 in the ALCS, can you come back?
Well, I guess we're going to find out about that.
For another day.
And if you have other people pitching.
I couldn't resist. Sorry.
Well, look, here's the thing. The next time we talk, the Blue Jays are either going to be playing in the World Series, getting ready for the Fall Classic, or they're going to be at home watching the World Series. So things can change very quickly.
It's all up to Max Scherzer in Game 4.
Yeah, that's exactly where the Blue Jays want to be, hoping that a 41-year-old can turn back the clock. But
not just a 41-year-old. 41-year-old has been rocked, I think, his last 6 starts in a row.
See, I've done it to you again, Rob. I've just thrown this completely off topic. All right.
No, fellas. It's totally fine. Totally fine. But we'll see what happens
my
here.
Deadline.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here with the Sabres and the Senators as they get set to meet on Wednesday night. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Bruce Garrioch, Steve Simmons, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.